Hello, my name is Brady Noski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching The Inner Gamer On.
And today we're going to talk about PlayStation no longer interested in making handheld consoles.
And if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell because we know you like it.
Bang it, bitches. I feel like we're entering a new decade, and in that new decade, 2020, I think companies are starting to hopefully, now this is fingers crossed, hopefully,
right?
But we've seen like EA go back on their word of like, oh, we only need multiplayer games and make a single player game that was really good. We've seen some companies that do loot boxes go back on that, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, and go to other forms of making money off of things. We've seen subscription services come out. We have new consoles coming around. And then we've seen PlayStation has come out and said that they are no longer interested in making handheld consoles. I'm kind of shocked by this in a way, but I'm also not shocked because I think that with the rise of the Switch and how well they perfected that, even though I wish
guy's limitations
graphics drive me crazy. Yeah. I want better graphics, but that's fine. But the Switch plus mobile gaming being such a big piece and not going anywhere anytime soon, I think they've just realized that, you know, we can make the most badass handheld console in the world, but it's still going to come down to the fact that we have to have developers that are making stuff for this. And if somebody already has a phone in their pocket, it's a lot easier for a developer to go to make a mobile game than it is to make a game exclusive to the system. And Nintendo's got Nintendo properties behind them. PlayStation doesn't have enough of that IP to like really push that. Plus, Nintendo's console is both.
I always felt like PlayStation was for a more mature market, you know, while Nintendo has captured, especially with the 3DS, like that the younger folks and the kind of games related to that we see, like the Pokemon Sun and Moon. You know, it's very, I don't want to say it's niche, but it's a very targeted market, and they were able to capture it and make that transition from, well, they've always had a handheld something, and I think it just fit for what they were doing, and that market is one that's going to tend to buy that console or that handheld device, while PlayStation is going for a more teenager and up, and then they don't have, I mean, think about it, what games could translate easily from a console to a handheld?
Yeah.
Or something that's going to fit in that universe from that. Like, there's just so many different variables, and it just no longer fits, especially with the Vita, which they did a lot of, games that were similar to, I don't want to say similar, but like, I feel like they're spin-offs of originals from the original PlayStation home console, and it just didn't work, you know?
Well, it worked. I mean, Vita was hugely successful.
Was it?
Oh, it was incredibly successful for a long time.
Where is it?
But the reason
where'd it go, Brett?
because it died out because mobile gaming. That was what happened. Is that mobile gaming got so big? But
you could argue like
Vita is a success story.
Well, what about the Game Boys? They continued to push forward after all this time.
Not anymore.
Well, actually, not. Well, yeah, obviously not anymore. But now, they moved on to 3DS and they moved on to the Switch. So obviously 3DS is gone, but Nintendo's been able to hold that handheld market for quite a while.
I mean, the Vita, Vita hasn't been dead for very long. I mean, they just killed it, I think, like a couple years ago.
Right.
So it's fairly new, but we did expect them to have a release in 2013 is when it came out, November of 2013. So it came out the same time as the PlayStation 4. So that wasn't that long ago.
Man, it felt like it was before that.
I thought, well, they had the PSP. So the PlayStation Portable, and then they made the PS Vita, which is a higher end version.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
And then in 2018, so literally September of last year, is when they discontinued the Vita. So it's very, very new that they stopped making it. And then now we're at a point where I understand where they're going, because there's no reason to combat against Nintendo because they have a 2-in-1 console. But PlayStation is all about high graphics, high fidelity, top-notch storytelling, and you can't do that with the 2-in-1, as we've learned with the Switch.
Exactly.
And the mobile gaming is so big, I think it makes sense for them to try and maybe put more money into the PlayStation Now situation and kind of do akin to what xCloud's doing with Microsoft, where that is something that you can install on your mobile phone, or you can install on your other peripherals that you already have with you. So I think it makes sense. It's just kind of it's kind of a bummer to see that they're doing this, but people, I mean, hardware is difficult. I was listening to a podcast today saying that they think that, even though Xboxes bring out a new piece of hardware, they're all about, they want their services sold because they don't make a lot of money off of their consoles.
Right.
They make a shit ton off of those services.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see that process change.
I think they're doing the right thing. Like I know we talked about, maybe we could see PlayStation 5 as a hybrid handheld as well, and it could be interesting to see what they could do with that. Obviously, I felt like technology isn't there for them to make the 4K gaming along with a handheld device.
We saw Shield try it, and that fell on its face.
Yeah, that's true.
So that didn't.
But it was using different technology, wasn't it? Was it streaming it?
No, it was built in. It was using like the Snapdragon. I think it's using the same technology that's now in the Quest.
Okay, interesting.
But it just wasn't. It's another peripheral that you have to carry with you.
Yeah.
And the Switch was able to make a portable peripheral that you carry with you that also can dock at your house or dock at anybody's house that has a dock.
Right.
So that's got a multi-use utility, whereas this thing, that little Shield, plus the Shield wasn't portable. I mean, it was a controller with a screen on top of it. And the PS Vita is like, you hold it there.
Not friendly to carry around. Take it places.
But I mean, these phones, they're a phone that sticks in your pocket, and then you can pull it out and just start playing freaking 4K games on it and go crazy. So,
well, I mean, they found what works. They're doing it right, and they're doing it very successful. So yeah, I say stay the course. Why change it? Why try to add another thing on that might split the fan base or the user base? And I mean, I'm not splitting in a negative way. Just like some people might go this way opposed to buying both, or I mean, they're killing it. They're beating out. They basically won the console war, in my opinion. So
yeah, I mean, you see what happens with when you split your products too much and have too many basically barcodes. Too many products out there on the market. Like whenever iPhone came out, they started expanding to, they had like the big one and the small one, and then they're like, let's add a third version that's made of aluminum, let's add this version.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
It's harder to sell what's good about it, whereas that's what made Apple successful, was like, we have one phone and it's an iPhone and you should buy it. And they focused in on that and made it great, and it did super, super well for them. And I think that's what PlayStation and Xbox has seen here, is that you make one console, Xbox not as much, but like PlayStation, you make one console, you upgrade it to PS4 Pro, you're good, and then let's do the next console, and then focus in on the experience around that,
right?
To propel things forward. So I'm
happy
excited.
I'm happy with this. They're making the right decision. As much as I want to like have a PlayStation Vita, like there's no games that I can think, especially then. Like I know a lot of people are like, well, they stopped making games for this. How do they expect this to survive? And like games were announced to come out on the PlayStation Vita, and then they just never did. And it's just like, man, what is going on here? At least from when I was hearing other fanboys talking about it, it was never my thing. It seemed cool, but like it was never my thing.
Up until had the Switch not come out, there was still a huge market for Vita, but the Switch took any market that was left away.
But again, like the games coming out on Vita, there was nothing I ever saw that was like, man, I should get a Vita. It was always like, oh, it's just okay, like cool, I guess.
yeah. I think there was definitely. I think it just depends on what you're into. I mean, if you're like hardcore PlayStation fanboy, like there's a boatload of fan service games that were on there. Like if you're in like all the Final Fantasies and all of this and all of that, that there was a slew of them that came out that were very good experiences on that system. And
it seems like,
but they were designed for that system. They weren't dual use.
It seems like it was more the hardcore people, hardcore PlayStation fanboys who were on that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand it.
Yeah. So for people that, I mean, like we play PlayStation because we love the exclusives, but we're not, I don't think either of us we're not hardcore PlayStation people.
Right.
We're not like, into the old titles that have been around forever that are like, oh man, this is my shit. Like Final Fantasy, for example. Like, that's a big one. And I think it's a different time, but it's good that they're doing this. I think it's a smart move to just focus in on their bread and butter.
Exactly.
Build up some services, all that stuff. I think that'll be a good call for them.